What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Axel's Analysis. As always, I am your host, your NXT nerd, and your Indian former Axel Mulligan, and it's the first show of 2015. Hope everybody had a great new year. And it was, I'm actually back to reviewing NXT for the first time for weeks. I can't remember the last fucking show I reviewed for NXT. Slightly covered TakeOver when I had Tim on the show a few weeks ago. But yeah, I mean, NXT's back. It was an okay show. Just needed a bit more substance to it, I think, than what we actually got on the product. But take it for what it was. It was a decent show. Commentary team was Rich Brennan, Alex Riley, and Renee Young. Alex Riley just needs to either learn to commentate and stop burying the baby faces. I know he's a heel. He needs to stop burying the faces or fuck off, because that was all he was doing in the main event. Basically, the main event was the Ascension versus Finn Balor and Hideo Itami, and all he was doing was just saying, well, they're not proven. But to be fair to Renee Young, she put up a good argument for him to say, yeah, but they've done it outside of the WWE, they've done it outside of NXT. And Riley was just basically saying, well, this is the big leagues now, what have they done? Well, they've just beaten the most dominant team in NXT history. But I'd say that's the main event, so we'll get onto that a little bit later on. First match was a tag team match. The tag team champions, Kalisto Cara versus Jason Jordan and Ty Dillinger. I don't actually know if they've got a tag team name or if they're just Jordan Dillinger, but it was a nice, solid, it was a short match, but it was a solid match. Nothing overly cool about it, so to speak. We didn't get the usual Kalisto spots that we would normally see, but it was a nice way to finish the match. Hulakara, he hit a sunset flip / power bomb pinning combination. It was cool. I thought it was pretty good. Picked up the win with that. I believe he pinned Dillinger. I can't remember now. I've not written it down on my notes, but I believe it was Dillinger. Post-match, Kalisto Cara celebrating, and the Vaudevillains come down, attack the champions quite viciously. And I actually like the way that the Vaudevillains are being booked now. Instead of being booked as these sort of, I suppose before they were sort of like happy-go-lucky faces / tweeners, where, you know, they were playing to the crowd with their entrance and with their antics, but now they're actually being villainous, which is good, because they're going by their name, the Vaudevillains. They're not the Vaude baby faces or the Vaude tweeners, they're the Vaudevillains, and they're actually being villainous, and I like it because they're sort of quite relentless in their attacks. They're actually going to get an NXT Championship rematch. That's going to be next week on the show. Basically what happened was the wrong man, or the illegal man, was pinned at TakeOver. They went to Regal a couple of weeks ago and said, look, the wrong man was pinned, we deserve a rematch. So Regal agreed to it, so they get their rematch next week. The second match of the night, the next segment of the night rather, was CJ Parker was out in the locker room, and Bull Dempsey comes into him and tells him that he needs to humiliate Baron Corbin the way that Baron Corbin's been humiliating him as of late. Parker said he doesn't care about maiming Baron Corbin and doesn't care about the issues between Bull Dempsey and Baron Corbin. But he says this. Dempsey said it's not about either of them, it's about the greater good. And the thing that struck me was that CJ Parker, he just sort of looked in agreement as to say, like, no, you're right. He sort of nodded his head as Bull left the room. And I was thinking maybe we could get like an alliance between the two, and I got the perfect name. And Tim brought it up on Twitter yesterday. He sent me a message saying, isn't it funny how much Bull Dempsey looks like Silent Bob? So you got the team, CJ and Silent Bob. I'd like to see that work. I think it'd be fucking brilliant, but I don't think they would go with that. But that was a good observation, Tim. That was brilliant. I thought fucking nailed it, because he even sent me a picture of Silent Bob. It's amazing how much Bull Dempsey looks like him. Obviously Jay and Silent Bob, CJ and Silent Bull. I think it fucking worked perfectly. The next match was Carmella versus Blue Pants again. We get the usual entrances for these two. Enzo and Cass come out. Cass sings Blue Pants' fucking entrance music. It's getting a bit. Don't get me wrong, I love Enzo and I love Cass, but it's just getting a bit repetitive now, a bit boring. Just need to just rejig it a little bit, just to get it a bit more. Just to get it, just I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. Maybe just to freshen it up a bit, because it's a bit too stale at the moment. But freshen it up. Maybe I don't think they do the entrance music because you don't really hear the entrance music. But just freshen up a bit, Certified G's, bona fide studs. And I've heard it a million times, and as I say, I love both of them. I think they're brilliant, but just change it up a bit. It was the usual match between these two. Carmella dominated. It was a short match, but Carmella dominated it. Enzo got up on the apron, seemingly sort of cheering Carmella on. But she pushed him off, but it was more of like a slap push to the face, and he went down to the floor, and the distraction it allowed Blue Pants to get a roll up and pick up the win, and obviously quite a shock win. And after the match, Enzo apologised to Carmella, but she wasn't having any of it. She started going after him, like slapping him, punching him, doing whatever she could, but Cass got between them and sort of separated them. But I don't know if this would mean like they're going to split Carmella from them, or if they're going to split Enzo and Cass as a team. I'd rather they didn't, but it's the WWE, so that's possibly what they can do. But Triple H generally knows what he's doing with NXT, so I'd like to think that they won't go down that route. I think maybe if Carmella split away from him, because she's her own person, she doesn't really need them by her side, I don't think, so much now. But as I like to say, we'll see where they go with it. Talking to CJ Parker and Baron Corbin just now, their match is up next. And the notes that I've got on here, Snake Eyes Big Boot, end of days, 34 seconds, and that was mainly due to the fact that Bull Dempsey was in the crowd like he was at TakeOver, and he was just basically staring a hole through Baron Corbin. CJ should have took advantage of it, really. If you're talking, if it was shoot fighting, CJ should have took advantage of it, but he didn't. It was just Baron eyeballing Silent Bull in the crowd. Post match, Baron asked Bull if he was just gonna stand there like looking scared, or if they were gonna get into a fight. And with that, he left the ring, pulled Bull over the barricade. They started going at it. They got separated by the referees. But yeah, I think we'll see that match fairly soon. Need to see the match because it's getting too drawn out now. I like Corbin. Bull Dempsey's starting to grow on me, I must admit, because he's a good fighter. As I've said before, I don't think he's a good wrestler, but I think he's a good fighter. And Corbin as well, he's a decent wrestler. I've seen a little bit of him before he had this lone wolf gimmick, where he was just sort of like, just another name on the roster, so to speak. But he showed me during those matches that he had prior to this lone wolf gimmick that he can wrestle a little bit and he can fight. He's got the look of a star as well, so that'll only serve him in good purpose for the future. Vince likes a big guy who looks like a star, Roman Reigns. Say no more. William Regal had an interview up next with Devin Taylor. Devin said that Regal asked for the time. He says that next week Sami Zayn will return to update us on his status, obviously after what happened at TakeOver, where Kevin Owens powerbombed him into the ring apron. Curtis Axel, he interrupted Regal a couple of weeks ago, asking for just a shot to rebuild his career, relaunch his career. And Regal said, I'll think about it. And then Axel comes in this time. He says, I've not heard anything, what's going on. He said, I want a shot to rebuild my career. And Regal says, he wants to give the fans the best show possible. So next week it's Curtis Axel versus Hideo Itami. For me, I think that'd be a brilliant match. I think Curtis Axel gets a lot of unfair stick where, he's living in the shadow of his father and his grandfather. He's trying to pave a way for himself, and he's not really been given the opportunity to do that. He's put in that tag team with Ryback. Spent a little bit of time with the new Nexus. He was with Paul Heyman, so he's always had somebody overshadowing him. So I don't even think him and Ryback were on an even par, really, because of all the weird stuff what Ryback was posting on Twitter and things like that. I don't think that Curtis Axel ever got a fair crack at the whip. So what I'm reading is that he's going to be getting the same sort of role as what Tyson Kidd had down there. Rebuild him, not necessarily repackaging, but rebuild him, make him relevant again, and then get him back up to the main roster. So hopefully by sort of maybe WrestleMania / Extreme Rules time, Curtis Axel will be back up on the main roster, and it'd be where he was sort of 18 months ago, or a year ago, where he was sort of facing guys like John Cena, Triple H, so on and so forth. I don't think he'd reach those heights again, but get him in the hunt for the IC title, get him in the hunt for the US title. It's sort of like a rebuilding ground for some guys NXT, and it's worked well for Tyson Kidd. He's doing well for himself now on the main roster, but I think Curtis Axel could flourish down in NXT. He had a little run down there before he became Curtis Axel when he was still Michael McGillicuddy, and I think it could be good for him. It'll be good. It's probably make or break, I would say. But I think they got a lot of faith in him that he will not necessarily become the big star that a lot of people hoped he would be, but to do enough to make an impression on the roster. But we'll see. Next up we had a break, and then next up Devon's in the ring this time. She's says she's here to interview Charlotte. Charlotte goes down to the ring, usual entrance, blah blah blah, and Devon asks Charlotte what's next for her, as she's seemingly beating everybody on NXT. She got a big blue pants chant. I thought that was quite funny. That gave me a bit of a chuckle. But she says that NXT is her home, and it's she says that it's changing women's wrestling, sort of revolutionising women's wrestling. I think Shimmer might have something to say about that, but I kind of get what she's saying, because the matches that you look at the four special events last year. You had Emma versus Paige at the first one, fantastic match. You had Charlotte versus Natalya, another fantastic match. Who else did we have? We had Charlotte versus Sasha Banks and Charlotte versus Bayley, all brilliant wrestling matches. So I kind of see, in regards to mainstream wrestling, yes, I would agree with that comment, but if you're talking about revolutionising women's wrestling, I think that there's things further afield. I think there's much better wrestlers on the indie circuit than what you get in the WWE. Girl like Ivelisse Velez, Candice LeRae, people like that. Girls that would easily walk into WWE like that, or walk through the roster like that if given the chance. Alright, Ivelisse was there before and she got released for whatever reason, I'm not sure, but she's definitely much better than most of the women, if not all of the women on that roster already. So maybe with the exception of Natalya, who I think is the best women's wrestler in the WWE. So yeah, Charlotte says they're revolutionising women's wrestling in NXT. She calls Sasha the toughest opponent she's ever faced, and with that we get Sasha and Becky Lynch to come down to the ring. They said they're going to give her a beatdown basically, but before they can get into the ring, Natalya makes the save. Yeah, it was pretty much it really. It was probably a match that we're going to see next week or the week after, maybe, I don't know, but it wasn't promoted for next week, but obviously we're going to see the match at some stage. Where Charlotte goes from there, I'm not sure, because as Devon Taylor said, she's beaten everybody now. Maybe face Becky Lynch. She's not beaten her for the championship yet. She's beaten Natalya, she's beaten Bayley, she's beaten Sasha Banks twice. Unless they're going to bring somebody back like Emma, maybe. I just don't see where she's going to go next, to be honest with you. I think they need to bring more women into NXT because it is quite a thin roster down there at the moment. You know, obviously there's you've got Alexa Bliss as well. I can't really think of anybody else that they've got down there. But they maybe put some like Rosa Mendes down there. She can't wrestle with for shit, and obviously she's working with Fandango at the moment. But fucking hell, is something. Unless they're going to hire Blue Pants, actually give her a real name, and give her a title shot. That's what the crowd want to see. Main event: Finn Balor and Hideo Itami versus the Ascension. No face paint for Finn this week, which was a shame because I thought it was pretty fucking cool, to be honest with you, that the artwork that he had at Takeover. But it was a decent enough tag team match, mainly dominated by the Ascension, as you'd expect. But what really gets me with the Ascension is they had that year or so title reign where the matches would be a case of beat the crap out of the guy in the ring, knock the partner off the apron, hit the fallen man, get the win. But now they just seem to be like, now that they're not facing jobbers, it's just like, well, that strategy's gone out the window, and it just doesn't make any sense because they could at least try to do it and fail. I mean, what's the difference between them facing Finn Balor and Hideo Itami to them facing Buddy Murphy and Wesley Blake? Because that's what they did to Buddy Murphy and Wesley Blake. They would beat the crap out of one of them, throw the other one off the apron, hit the fallen man and win. I just don't get it. I know obviously they don't want to bury Balor and Itami, but at least let the Ascension try that and at least say, well, that's not going to work now. That's not going to work this time against these two guys, because then as well that puts Finn and Hideo over. It doesn't necessarily bury the Ascension, but yeah, as I said, it was a good decent enough tag team match. Again, they teased Hideo hitting the GTS like they did at Takeover. I think it's only a matter of time before they pull the plug and let him use it, to be honest with you, because they wouldn't keep teasing it otherwise. Obviously, the fans know all about it because the fans of NXT are quite educated, like, you know, well-educated people. They know the backgrounds of a lot of these guys. But I think it's just a matter of time before they pull the plug on it and just let it run with it. Especially now that CM Punk's gone to the UFC. I don't think that there would be a backlash from CM Punk fans, because a lot of CM Punk fans are probably Hideo Itami fans as well, so we'll see. Finn and Hideo picked up the win, I suppose, as you would expect. Hideo hit, it was like a spinning kick to Victor to pick up the win, like a kick to the back of the head. But what struck me is the Ascension are starting to remind me, in NXT this is, of the Briscoes, as in Mark and Jay, not Jack and Jerry. When the fuck was the last time Connor got pinned? Jay Briscoe hasn't been pinned for over 2 years in ROH. It's got to be a year, 18 months since Connor's been pinned. I can't remember Connor being pinned actually, since Victor's been part of the Ascension. I know Victor's been pinned at least 4 times in the last 2-3 months now, but I can't remember the last time Connor got pinned. But yeah, as I said earlier, it was a decent enough show, but it just needs a bit more substance to add to the product, because it's all a bit it didn't seem to go anywhere with this show. You know, we closed out the feud between Itami and Balor versus the Ascension, but other than that, maybe the Enzo and Cass versus Enzo, Cass and Carmella storyline, maybe something's picking up with that. Aside from that, I don't really see anything of any substance. Obviously we're going to get the match between Paul Dempsey and Baron Corbin as well, but there was no announcement as to say to when that was going to happen. It's just Baron Corbin wants it to happen, but who knows, maybe we'll find out more next week or during the week on WWE.com. The news this week: NXT moving to Wednesday nights in 2 weeks. That's to facilitate the move for SmackDown moving back to Thursday nights, which is a good move for WWE, as I think I said a few weeks ago. It was announced on on screen this week that NXT's moving to Wednesday nights. The only thing that I'm mystified about is what they're going to do with Superstars unless they air it on WWE on the WWE network before they air SmackDown, or after SmackDown maybe, I don't know. Or unless they're going to move that to Wednesdays as well and air it before or after NXT. Not sure what they'll do with that, but I don't think many people watch Superstars anyway, in all honesty. Also as well, the Ascension debuted on Raw this week. No idea why they're using face paint, but my first thought was LOD, Legion of Doom. The promos that they've been been very LOD like. The face paint is, I don't know why they've got to put people up and just alter their personalities, alter their appearances. Just put them up as they are. Put them up as they are. I just don't see the point on changing things that are working. You know, apparently they're going to be putting Adrian Neville up as they're just going to completely fucking repackage him. There was talk about actually putting a fucking mask on it. Obviously you can't see it now, but I'm just shaking my head in disbelief at some of the decisions that the main roster WWE writers come up with, because they're just fucking awful at the moment. I mean, I watched Raw for the first time in weeks this week. That was simply because Edge and Christian were on there. I'm a big Christian fan, I'm a big Edge fan. But I thought the show all in all was very good. I thought the way they handled Christian's retirement was very, very poor. It was just a quick line from Jerry Lawler to say, oh yeah, they're both retired. Well, when the fuck did Christian announce his retirement? There's nothing come through on Twitter, there's nothing come through on WWE.com, there's nothing come through anywhere. It's just, yeah, Christian's retired. For me, Christian's a legend, at least. If you're gonna mention the word legend, at least in the last 20 years you could consider him a legend because of what he did, revolutionising tag team wrestling. And anybody who can point out a bad Christian singles match to me since his singles run started around 2001, anybody who can point out a bad Christian match to me, bloody send it my way, because I can guarantee you there isn't one. And that's my little rant. I'm going to have another one now actually. Sky Sports no longer showing NXT. Why? Are we getting the network? Who knows? Why are we being deprived? We, over in the UK, I know a lot of fans appreciate this, but I don't know how much the WWE actually appreciate it. We're actually probably one of your bigger fan bases, and we actually appreciate some of the stuff that goes on in the WWE a lot more than many other countries, I would say. And we're just constantly getting fucked over by the fact that there's no WWE network over here, which we were due to have 2 months ago. No explanation as to why we didn't get it. It's just that, oh, we're working on you getting it. Fine, but why haven't we got it? Now you're taking NXT away from us. Fuck you. They're not even changing it back to Wednesdays, it's just not there at all. And I don't know a British WWE fan that doesn't like NXT. Why we're having it taken away, I don't know. Why we have had it taken away, I don't know. But I just think it's a fucking ridiculous decision by whoever it is, and unless we're going to get the network imminently, I just see it as a pointless fucking move. And it's a move that's just going to piss off more fans than you've already pissed off. You know, I think a lot of people can live with not having the network, that's fine. But when you start taking away programming that we can't access unless you're clever like me, you know, ways around things. Why we're having this programming taken away is just ridiculous. And again, no explanation as to why. It's just there was not even an announcement. It's just a case of flicking through your TV guide and finding out that way. Fucking awful. Anyway, a new section added to the show this week on a lighter note. Reviewed Ring of Honor last week. I reviewed Final Battle a couple of weeks ago. So, new section to the show called The Review of Honor. And basically this started up, I had a bit of an idea probably 3 or 4 months ago now, where I was going to blog about Ring of Honor, and got halfway through writing a blog and I thought, I can't be fucked this. So I've been deliberating over the last, I'd say, few months now. And personally, I mean, I love Ring of Honor. You know, again, there's more and more UK fans getting into Ring of Honor, and I think if they could get a TV deal over here, that'd be brilliant. Not only for them, but for us as well. I personally watch it on rohwrestling.com, so ringside membership, definitely worth the money, definitely worth getting into and watching. As I said last week, anybody who didn't watch this week's show has missed a treat. We had there were only 2 matches on the card. We had Adam Cole versus Brian Kendrick, and the finals were Tag Wars. I'm only going to give like a brief sort of run through of the results. Basically, Adam Cole defeated Brian Kendrick, and that was a match actually. I pointed it out on Twitter at the time. Both of these guys, Kinney from the Sunday Segway has interviewed both of these guys. Just a little something. But yeah, Cole won with the Florida Key. I thought that was an awesome match. As I said, if you've not seen it, if you don't watch Ring of Honor Wrestling, you need to watch Ring of Honor Wrestling. I swear to you now, because this is the best wrestling product around at the moment. For at least for weekly programming anyway. I'd say it's even better than NXT. Ring of Honor is the highlight of my wrestling week. Final with Tag Wars, which was the main event. You had Red Dragon defending against the Addiction, ACH and Matt Sydal, and the Briscoe brothers. The Briscoes were eliminated first, which I was really surprised about. Christopher Daniels pinned Mark Briscoe. The Addiction were next to go. ACH pinned Daniels after Sydal hit the shooting star press and ACH hit the 450. Now that is a fucking brilliant combination, because what it was is you had ACH sat on a turnbuckle, on sort of the bar that holds the turnbuckle to the ring post. Sydal hit the shooting star press, and then ACH followed that up with the 450, but they were both in that same corner, and I just thought that was fucking amazing. I really did. I thought it was brilliant. But Red Dragon picked up the win. They hit Chasing the Dragon to ACH to retain their tag titles. They defend their IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championships tomorrow at Wrestle Kingdom 9. Unfortunately, I was going to watch it live, but unfortunately I'm not going to be able to. I'm on the Sunday Segway tomorrow, so I'll catch up with that a little later on. But as I said before, I will be covering that. It'll be sort of an extra show, probably Wednesday, Thursday of next week. So yeah, if you're interested, still as well, I've had a lot of views on the Okada versus Tanahashi preview show that I did. So again, if you haven't watched that, get on and watch it. It's seemingly fucking hot shit at the moment, so get on that, because the views are still climbing on it, and I've had a lot of positive feedback on it. So in my opinion, it was one of the best shows that I've done. So yeah, the more views, the better. Ring of Honor do have a TV taping tonight in Nashville. This is Saturday the 3rd of January, where we've got Jay Lethal defending the TV title against ACH and Matt Sydal, which should be an awesome match. Adam Cole addresses his Ring of Honor future, and there's a few people been sort of saying, I'm hoping that he announces that he's leaving Ring of Honor and going to WWE. I don't want to see him go to WWE, as much as that might make me sound like a bit of a shit. WWE will find him some fucking awful name. I came up with the name Cole Adams because that's the sort of fucking thing that they would do. I'd rather he stayed in Ring of Honor for, I don't know, I'd like to see him there for 2 or 3 more years. He's 25, so he's got plenty of time before he moves on to bigger and quote unquote potentially better things. But yeah, I mean, I know he's got this shoulder injury, so that's probably what the announcement's going to be. And finally, in what me and Tim like to call a hashtag Randy Marsh moment, Christopher Daniels is facing ROH debutant Alberto El Patron, Alberto Del Rio to WWE fans, but Alberto, he's on the indie circuit now. He's been allowed to wrestle on the indie circuit after an agreement with the WWE that he's made. But yeah, Alberto El Patron versus Christopher Daniels, as I say, hashtag Randy Marsh movement. So yeah, that's TV taping tonight in Nashville. I believe those shows will air as of not this week coming, but the week after. So if anybody's interested, wants to see how Alberto's getting on the indie circuit, just check it out, because it's going to be brilliant. I brought back the Grappling Greats. Didn't know what the fuck or who the fuck I was going to cover, so I was thinking back to when I covered Vern Gagne. For whatever reason, I don't know why, it just sort of popped into my head. And I thought, well, who was Vern Gagne's greatest opponent? Nick Bockwinkel for me, so I thought, fuck it, I'm going to cover Nick Bockwinkel. One of the greatest talkers of all time, I would say. The way he worked the mic was just really second to none in his generation, in his time. The wording that he would use really long words to confuse opponents and sort of wow the crowds, I suppose, really. But no, I've gone with Nick Bockwinkel, wrestling legend in my opinion. He's a WWE Hall of Famer. So he was born Nicholas Warren Francis Bockwinkel on December the 6th, 1934 in St. Paul, Minnesota. He began his wrestling career at the age of 16 against his trainer and mentor Lou Thez. Not a bad opponent to face first up. He won his first major championship in 1963, which was the NWA Pacific Northwest Heavyweight Championship from Tony Bourne. He joined the American Wrestling Association, the AWA, in 1970 and formed a more than formidable tag team with the crippler Ray Stevens. They went on to win 3 AWA World Tag Team Championships in their tenure, I suppose you could call it, and their manager was Bobby the Brain Heenan, so you don't get much better than that. You know, your trainer was Lou Thez, your first match was against Lou Thez, and your first manager in a major company was Bobby the Brain Heenan, and your tag team partner was Ray Stevens. Bockwinkel, he won his first AWA World Heavyweight Championship in 1974 at the age of 40, ending the 7-year reign of Vern Gagne. And as champion, he had feuds with Billy Robinson, Mad Dog Vachon, Dick Bruiser, Jerry Lawler, Mr. Saito, Vern Gagne, and Hulk Hogan. On March 25th, 1979, Bockwinkel faced the then WWF champion Bob Backlund in what was a unification match. It was in Canada, but I can't remember what fucking city it was in now. I should have wrote it down. It was a unification match for the AWA World Heavyweight Championship and the WWF Championship. It ended in a double count out, which meant obviously the respective champions kept their championships. He lost the title back to Vern in 1980, only to have it handed back to him when the AWA owner retired from in-ring action. And that particular move, giving Bockwinkel back the championship, it didn't go down too well with the AWA fans and the AWA faithful. Bockwinkel wasn't liked enough as it was, and he was fucking hated even more. He basically just became the most despised wrestler on the roster. More controversy surrounded Bockwinkel as champion when Hulk Hogan defeated Bockwinkel for the title in June 1982, but AWA President Stanley Blackburn reversed the decision. I believe it was because I get all this information generally off of Wikipedia, but I'm pretty sure it was the match where Hogan clotheslined him over the top rope while the referee was down. You're not supposed to, back in those days, you weren't really supposed to do that. So Stanley Blackburn reversed the decision, and Bockwinkel essentially won the match by disqualification. Bockwinkel soon after lost the title to Otto Wantz, but won it back again within 2 months as Hogan left to rejoin the WWF. Obviously, we all know what happened there. Bockwinkel lost the title to Jumbo Tsuruta in February 1984 in a match refereed by Terry Funk, and he won his 4th and final AWA World Heavyweight Championship in 1987 at the age of 52, winning against Stan Hansen by forfeit when Hansen didn't show for his title defence. He lost the title to Kurt Hennig later that year. Larry Zbyszko got involved in the match. He handed Hennig a roll of coins, which Hennig used to his advantage to pick up the win. Bockwinkel sort of later got his revenge on Zbyszko with a roll of coins straight to the face against Zbyszko. picked up the win, a little bit of revenge. Obviously can't substitute for a world title loss, but there's always a bit of personal revenge that can be very satisfying. And he retired soon after that. He came out of retirement in 1992 for a one-off match against Billy Robinson on a UWFI show in Japan. I've not seen the match, but apparently there was a spot in there that Robinson wasn't very happy with, where Bockwinkel caught him with a knee, and he was like, well, it's only a knee, Robinson, come on. But it's not a match I've seen, it is a match I want to see though, so I might see if it's available on YouTube after I've done this. Been inducted into the following Hall of Fame: the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame in 1996, Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame and Museum in 2003, and the WWE Hall of Fame in 2007. He was also voted number 18 on the PWI singles wrestlers list for the PWI years in 2003. So if you're anywhere near the top 20, you've done good. If you're in the top 20, you've obviously had a fucking brilliant career, and Nick Bockwinkel certainly had a fucking brilliant career. Very heavily featured on the DVD that the WWE put out. It must have been around 2007, maybe even been a little bit earlier than that, which basically covered the life and times of the AWA. Bockwinkel was very heavily featured, as you'd expect, 4-time AWA World Heavyweight Champion, 3-time Tag Team Champion, so obviously had this big history with Vern Gagne as well. But no, definitely deserving of his spot in the WWE Hall of Fame back in 2007, most definitely. But yeah, that wraps up the show. As always, I'm gonna put the shout outs in the notes below. I've not got the list in front of me. There's a couple I want to add to it as well. A special shout out actually to IVP Videos, just for all the fucking orders that I've placed with you guys. Thank you very much. I've recently put in a new order for AJ Styles Best of 2014. It's obviously it's a lot of New Japan stuff, but anybody who hasn't checked it out, go to ivpvideos.com, follow them on Twitter, like them on Facebook. Just such a brilliant site, as I say. I order from there quite regularly, and it really helped me out with the Tanahashi versus Okada show that I did a few weeks back, so thank you very much, IVP Videos. That's the end of the show. I don't think there's anything else we need to cover, so I'll be back again, as I say, I'll be back again either Wednesday or Thursday covering Wrestle Kingdom 9. Also, I'll be on the Sunday Segway podcast tomorrow. It's the Beat the Clock final between myself and Kinney. I'm looking forward to it. I'm pretty sure he is as well. If there was one person in the tournament that I knew I was going to possibly come unstuck against, it was Kinney. And if you're going to come unstuck, at least come unstuck in the final. So if you listen to this, Kinney, all the best for tomorrow, man. And yeah, I'll be back again next week covering Wrestle Kingdom 9.